Inflation has hit a 20-year high today. I talked about this last week and again last night, and the big question, of course, is whether this leads to the first interest rate rise for a decade. The Reserve Bank meets next Tuesday, so we'll know then. And as we'll discuss later, whatever they decide will be big political news within the campaign. The case for an increase now is so strong that if they don't move, even that will be seen as a political decision. So I reckon expect a rate rise next week. Labor is using the inflation result, as you'd expect, to attack the government.
This government has dropped the ball on inflation and they have left Australians unprepared for the big challenges and the big opportunities that are on our horizon when it comes to the economy.
Now, Labor says this even though it obviously would have been worse under their policies because they were demanding even more stimulus, even more spending, billions more extending JobKeeper further, $6 billion on paying people to get jabbed, even if they were already jabbed, go figure, and Lord knows how much on some crackpot scheme to buy an airline, for crying out loud. So just as Labor's attack over Solomon Islands and China focuses the debate on a coalition strength of national security, their attack on the government over inflation also pushes the campaign debate onto another coalition strength, economic management.
I thought this might be helpful, and yes, I'm going back to my Treasurer's days pulling out the charts. This is the expectation on inflation. So this already factors in an Australian inflation rate, potentially of what the markets are estimating at about 4.5% in Australia. And what you can see here is, yes, there are inflationary pressures in all the major economies around the world. You can see in the United States up over 8%. Economies in Germany, the United Kingdom, and indeed in New Zealand and Canada up around the 7% mark. But there's Australia performing better than all of them when it comes to cost of living pressures.
Well, at least it was smaller, I suppose, and not as corny as Mark Latham's big cheque guarantee, remember? So the election campaign, though, as predicted, is now focusing on the fundamentals. You can't avoid them in an election campaign, and that should be good for the coalition. Big debates about national security and the economy. Of course, so long as they demonstrate competence, the government's got to demonstrate that competence. And they've got to do that over the Labor Party and the media attacks that are designed to undermine any of the results. I reckon this should be good ground for the government. It should be strong ground for Scott Morrison, Josh Frydenberg and the Liberal Party. But the coalition really do need to sharpen their lines and muscle up.